Hey, Dorian,
Hi, Matt.
Mara, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, photograph with spirit in it, maybe.
That's him.
You tell me when you want me to do this video.
Welcome, y'all. I just want to give you a quick 30-second rundown of how today will go. We're going to start with a 15-minute video on John Brown. As per our veterans, they have requested that we study John Brown a bit more. So we're starting off with 15 minutes of John Brown.
And a song for Maroon Campaign.
And a song for the Maroon Campaign. And then we're going to go into introductions where I'll introduce each of you very briefly. I don't like to talk too much. So if I left anything out of the intro, please don't feel bad to say it in your own words as well. And then we have some questions that have already come from our Maroon participants and our Maroon leaders, such as Doreen here and Amara. And then we have questions from our spheres, like we have an Ed Unit sphere about education. We do have a White Maroon group. So we have had groups working towards asking questions for you all. And I'll start off with Dequi, and we'll go to Sekou, and then we'll go to Matt. And in the meantime, you can have fun. So if there's a question, like if I give Dequi a question that you have an answer that you would love to say, please don't feel that you have to stick to the formality of Dequi speaking first, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions?
Let me ask this question. Are you having us, you're not having us do any opening anything. It's going to go straight to questions, huh?
I'll introduce you and then I'll let you introduce yourselves as well.
Because we've had a thing where we did for speaking for myself, we don't have to do this, but we've had a thing where, you know, with the three of us speaking before.
Let's just go with her format, Matt. Let's go with her format. Whatever.
Yeah. So you're not having us do opening remarks. You're just going to go into the questions, eh?
I like that.
Okay. We like that. All right, y'all, it's 5:01. We're gonna open our doors. Welcome to our first Maroon Monday of September.
I'm Mr. Beat. I'm here in Osawatomie, Kansas, in front of the John Brown Museum. John Brown, that's right. The infamous abolitionist, probably the most infamous abolitionist in history. He moved to Kansas during the Bleeding Kansas era. He wanted Kansas to be a free state. He ended up killing people in the name of ending slavery. Was John Brown a hero or was he a terrorist? But first, let's go back to the beginning. John Brown was born in Torrington, Connecticut on May 9th, 1800. His parents, Owen and Ruth Brown. He was the fourth one born of their 8 kids. No, he didn't look like that when he was a baby. No one knows what he looked like when he was a baby, silly. Brown's family moved around a lot when he was a kid, but he spent most of his youth in Ohio. He had a very religious upbringing. Owen and Ruth also raised John to absolutely hate slavery. At 16 years old, he left his family and went to Plainfield, Massachusetts, where he studied to become a Congregationalist minister. Ultimately, though, Brown went into the same business as his dad. He raised cattle and worked as a tanner, you know, making leather from animal skins. At one point, he was also a surveyor, you know, checking out the land and stuff. In 1820, he married Dianthe Lusk. The couple eventually had 7 children together and ended up settling in New Richmond, Pennsylvania. This is what's left of the tannery John Brown ran while living there. Between 1825 and 1835, the tannery was an important stop on the Underground Railroad. No, it wasn't an actual railroad, you silly goose. The Underground Railroad was just what they called the secret network of routes and safe houses used to aid runaway slaves. slaves. It's estimated that Brown helped more than 2,500 slaves at that tannery. The 1830s didn't begin so well for Brown. In 1831, his 4-year-old son Frederick died. Brown himself got really sick and his businesses struggled, causing him to get in big debt. The next year, Dianthe died while giving birth to an unnamed son who also died shortly afterward. Clearly, this was a low point in Brown's life.
I don't have no sound.
The video.
There's something wrong with the audio,
Sorry, y'all,
guys.
the video's having a hard time loading, but welcome. Look at all these beautiful maroons joining us. Hello, I see you, Sally. I see Diane.
What they say, run away, get away. We maroons, yeah. We maroons. Oh Lord, Gator Bay, hell nah, we won't wait. We maroon, yeah. Fucker, we maroon, yeah. Whipping they lash, cutting they flesh when they savage, trinklets mutilate, living lavish. I will not be wearing they badges. Not this day, no not today, bad this way. So defund is what you won't say. Didn't you know defund is not free? Community control of the fucking police. Now we talking 1966 Black Panther pin walking from a brick to a grip, chalking. I ain't trip, I ain't slip, still walking till liberation come. Are we with a drum, still hawking till they close the coffin. I don't wanna Gotham. I don't want a bad boy copping. I only a live wire, fucking liars. Why is blacks Johnson? Why is blacks Johnson? White supremacy ain't adopted. Oh Lord, what they say? Run away, get away. We maroons, yeah. We maroons. Oh Lord, Gator Bay, hell nah, we won't wait. We maroon, yeah. Fucker, we maroon, yeah. Yeah. One, you must live where you serve. Got the nerve, occupy my hood, use a mockingbird. Mocking we mocking you, the echoes heard. Fuck 12, FTP 2. Decentralize the pigs by making 3 different departments. That's not so hard, man, the sergeants. Man, the sergeants. 3, the power to hire and fire your ass. By community boards, by the people you've lashed. Raped, castrated, conquered, fed them to them alligators. Little baby, beta gator. Little baby, beta gator. Little baby, beta gator. The waiters. The waiters. Don't be the waiters. Don't be the waiters. Oh Lord, what they say? Run away, get away. ya. Oh Lord, Gator Bay, hell no, we won't wait. We maroon ya. Fuck we maroon ya. Oh Lord, what they say? Run away, go get away. We maroon ya. We maroon. Oh Lord, Gator Bay, hell no, no, we won't wait. We maroon ya. Fuck we maroon ya. Oh Lord, get away, Gator Bay, we won't wait. We maroon, we maroon. Oh Lord, get away, run away, we won't wait. Maroons, get maroon. Free maroon, free maroons, free the truth. It's Black August. 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 George Jackson, Nat Turner.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
I like
howdy,
that
people.
song. Yay.
Hello, hello. You can see Matt raising a fist and Dequi, our special guest, waving, and Sekou is there with the beautiful golden and red maroon curtains. If you are a maroon with us today, go ahead and show your face. Show your face so everybody can see all of the gorgeous, hardworking, committed participants that are here on a Labor Day weekend Monday. And I know everybody would like to be somewhere else, but as I said in my last email, the patriarchy does not take a day off, nor shall we. Beautiful to see everybody. Yes, yes, yes. Amazing, amazing. And Diane is there with her fancy headset, and she's going to be asking some questions with me today. So excited. Thank you to all of the people that made today happen. Thank you, Spirit, for that incredible video to kick off our Maroon Monday, Labor Day Monday. Please give it up for Spirit Child. He does not get enough thank you for all of the work he does. If it were not for him, we would not know pretty much all of our guests that we had in Black August, and definitely our guests today. So I might be biased, but he's an incredible, incredible human being. So
That's all right. It's okay, sweetie.
Beautiful. All right, my dears. Now we will just ask our guests to stay. Diane, you can also stay with us with your screen on. This way we can have our attention focused, and we'll go through a few interesting questions for today. Yes. So again, thank you. I'm seeing in the chat that people like the song, and I love the song. And I'm always telling him, please make something I can use with my 8th graders, because it cursed too damn much, but we know why you're angry. So, so it's all right. But all right, I want to start with Sister Dequi. So I have seen Sister Dequi in the streets and organizing for years and years. And every time I see her, my spirit lifts up. We have an affinity because we both have worked in the New York City Department of Ed. We both work hard with our husbands, for our husbands. And she is, and the other affinity that we have is one day I hope to dress like Sister Dequi. I know that's not as important as y'all might think, but if you've been in the movement as long as she has a million t-shirts with different years of different campaigns, and she has people help her make them into amazing skirts. So that's just my own personal bias on Dequi. And just to give a few background pieces of information, you can also hear her still on BAI. She has a Where We Live radio show every week. And she is chair of the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee and was leader of the Sekou Odinga Defense Committee, which, as you can see, was successful. And in November of 2014, was able to liberate Sekou.
Thank you.
Beautiful,
Thank you.
yes.
So
Now I will speak about Sekou.
okay.
We heard a lot about you. We were so excited for you to come out, and we have been studying you and what you've done in your time since you've been out. You have a book. Sorry, a little bit of background. Let me backtrack. I just get so excited. I get so excited. Okay. Sekou Odinga was a member of Malcolm X's Organization of Afro-American Unity, and also a founding member of New York's chapter of the Black Panther Party. He was a member of New York Panther 21, which is how he got to his incredible book. And we will speak more on that. We have specific questions for that. But for those of you that love to Google things while things are happening, the title is Look for Me in the Whirlwind, from the Panther 21 to 21st Century Revolutions. So that's us. Hopefully, Brother Sekou, you feel that we are helping with this 21st century revolution.
Yes, I hope.
Just give it up for Brother Sekou. Yes, thank you, Matt, for the visual. Love it, love it, love it. Beautiful. Love that red, black, and green colors and everything. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And now we have Matt Meyer, who also is someone who works on the inside and the outside in terms of education and has incredible amounts of material that we have been sharing and will continue to share with our Maroons around what it is to be an educator and a liberator. He's got 9 or 10 books that you've been a part of. You can show us on your fingers if they still fit on your fingers, Matt. And you can't throw a stone without, in this activist world, you can't throw a stone without hitting something that Matt has been a part of. We just, the other day, we're walking down our street and ran into a neighbor of ours who's very big in war resistance, and she knew Matt. The other day I was looking up Laura Whitehorn to get more information, and there was a panel back probably 10 years ago with you all. So really, I mean, he is everywhere all the time, and we're very blessed to have all 3 of you. He's also the co-founding co-chair of the Peace and Justice Studies organization, and is involved in so much more. If you go to his house, it's lined with art from decades and decades of organizing and artwork and art equivalent to politics and lots of Puerto Rican nationalism. And yeah, there's not enough time to get to know these brilliant folks. So everybody just has to come back all the time, every season, and learn more and stay active together. So please give it up for Matt Meyer. Please give it up for Matt Meyer. Early on in my activist revolutionary career, Matt had Spirit and I over for dinner, and we got to ask some like really personal questions, and that was really touched me, Matt. So thank you. And I look forward to when we get to do those again, and our backyard barbecues with Sekou and all of the family. Yeah, so this is the best thing we got for our barbecue right here, where we can have people from all over the world joining us today. All right, beautiful. And thank you. Yes, keep lighting up that chat. so that we can have a trail of all the important. We can't have all the voices out loud today. We've noticed that when we tried to do that, it got too confusing. But we do like to see and hear everybody's voices in the chat. So please keep lighting up that chat. And to our guests today, if I missed something that you are working on now, if I missed something about you that you are passionate about, please don't hesitate. You don't have to just answer the question. This is a party, Maroon Party for Liberation. So be liberated and be free to talk about yourselves and each other in a way that moves you. Gorgeous. All right, Diane, do you have a question to kick us off today? For Sister
Thank you
Dequi.
so much. Thank you so much, Rosa. Thank you. Welcome to Dequi. So happy to meet you. I'm Diane, Diane Isaac. I've been teaching here and living here on Staten Island for 17 years. You know, I know about the system. I know about the struggle. You know, I've raised 3 sons. And I know what it is. I myself, as a parent and a teacher in the same school, you know, I started teaching at Curtis High School, and my own sons were in that school, and I saw the endemic racism, the systemic racism, while white teachers' kids got special attention and were put into honors classes and were given special places for reprieve to hide out from the riffraff, as I heard it called, the students, meaning students of color, right? Poor Black and brown students. I had to sit amidst that racism and pretty much stew because I didn't feel empowered to open my mouth and speak. And as the years went on, and my skills were relied on more hesitantly and reluctantly. They didn't want to really embrace my skills, but were forced to because other teachers didn't want the job, didn't want the work. And but I guess my question to you today is, how can we as Black educators and as Maroons, right? We have white Maroons, we have Black Maroons, right? How can, in our revolutionary policies and our revolutionary practices, how can we get the attention of administrators in authority, administrators, people in positions of power, in order to change the system of education, change the curriculum inside the school? How can we do that?
Well, wow. One of the things, like, studying history is important, right? So, which we know, because this Maroon Party is about political education and educating folks, right? Knowing that, you know, what, of course, you've been in there 17 years, so you know what you're up against, right? But that format, what you're speaking of, the power in numbers, that was attempted, that was, the Black teachers, there was a separate Black teachers union who Mama Yalua Ferguson was a part of, that was doing that same thing. And of course, we live, you know, in this system, there was the New York City Department of, I call it the Department of Miseducation, because there ain't no education going on. It's the indoctrination and conformity, everything but education, right? But they did have people who were organizing to attempt to do that. So I don't know, like, so many people are inspired right now about this time. There's so much talk about anti-racism work, you know, what do they call it? Culturally responsive. So now may be a time for Black and brown and educators who really care about the substantive education that people are receiving to either come up with curriculums, to look for other curriculums that then can be, you know, like, presented to these powers that be, to say, well, since this is trending right now, it's like Huey and Bobby said, seize the time. Sometimes we got to seize the time. And other times you might be able to do stuff in your classes within a particular time, but that's not system-wide. So one of the things that I would say to people, start where you are, build with other people who are of like mind, and get the support. Even like all politics is local. Get the support of people who represent the district that you're in, so that when they come after you, you have people who have your back. So, you know, because that's like that's chipping away at a couple of 100 years of institutionalized white supremacy. This school system, and they have never meant for Black and brown kids to be educated. Albert Shanker, who was their hero in the UFT, fought tooth and nail to prevent community control of the schools and the curriculum, because they know what knowledge and knowing identity, they know they know that if our children know who they are, then they know what the possibilities are, and these people can't stand before them and marginalize their history and their her story. So I don't know, like, if that answered all of your question, or at least I hope it answered some of it, right? Start where you are. I'm not a traditional UFT teacher, but I do educate, and I start with the groups. I've always started with the groups of students that I had, right? I teach them, because I can't do the whole school, but I can do where I am. And then there are other people who do those other things. So it's choosing where you want to be in that battle. If you want to be on the administrative level that then has the power to do that, then fine. But if it's the teacher part of connecting with kids, then you do that, and you connect with like-minded teachers to try to build up from there.
Thank you so much. This is Dequi. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And Diane is a part of our Ed Unit sphere, and they are working on curriculum, and we're working together to, you know, action on all fronts in terms of education. So some of our educators are inside schools, public schools. Some of them are going into prisons. We have a lot of teaching artists as well that have joined the Maroon Party for Liberation. And so all of the tips, and it really feels good. We've heard the message all through Black August and now today to work locally. So we're doing that as much as we can. Thank you so much. And Sister Dequi, I'm going to ask you a specific, Matt, is that you? A specific question. When you're starting off with a new group of students, how do you let them know that this class or course or workshop or whatever you're introducing is going to be a bit different from what they've had before? How do you invite them to that new space?
Well, one of the ways that I do that is kind of like where you opened up when you talked about my dress. My husband teases me all the time. I like clothes. Ain't no shame in my game. I like to look nice. I like nice things, right? So I believe that culture is a weapon, as we all know, but it's also in how we dress. So when I step into the school or I walk down the street, it says something about me, and students look at that and they see that. And so when I go into classrooms or when I meet students, when I say my name, I explain my name. And I don't, you know, I've always chosen to work with high school students, because for me, I can say what I need to say and it doesn't get twisted and turned. And I've never had a parent be mad at me because they said, you told my students so and so. The only time a grandmother was upset, well, she wasn't upset, but she told her grandmother, I don't care what Miss Keone says, I'm buying milk, because I was telling them about milk. So that was the only thing. She's like, hey, she can say whatever she want to say, I'm buying milk. Because my students would go home and they talk to their parents and grandparents about what they learned in the class. But nothing else did I ever, in speaking the truth about our history, did I ever get a high school parent that was upset. They were more appreciative and glad that students had taken my class. So I don't sugarcoat it. I tell them, and it's challenging, because when I say the things that I say, and I recognize to them that it's challenging. Things I'm going to tell you is challenging. You may not, it's things that you never heard. So they thought that I was like crazy, because this is what they told me, right? Because they never heard people say the things that they said, but that I was saying. But I think that going in there, the way that I present myself, the way I introduce myself, the things that I talk about, even the ways that I talk to students, just the way that I acknowledge their presence and their humanity, lets them know that dealing with me is going to be somehow different than dealing with a lot of them other folks. So that's, I guess, I don't know what else to say. I hope that I answered your question, but that's what I do. Like that right there lets them know. So over the years that I've been doing this educating, I've taken my students on trips which is impossible right now, but trips that they wouldn't normally go on. And I didn't take them to white institutions. I took them to, people of color, Black and brown and Asian institutions, so they could see a side, because they don't go to those. When school trips happen, they don't take them there. They take them to the Museum of Natural History. And that ain't no shade on the Museum of Natural History, but I think our children need something else. I would also have people come in to speak to my students. Laura, you mentioned Laura. One year, Laura came in to speak to my students, so that they can see that history is living. It's not just some facts and dates that they talk about in their social studies classes, but it's a living, breathing thing, and that there are people who have made great contributions and fought for freedoms that they walk the street with and would never know.
Beautiful, thank you. And I love that reminder of guests and field trips as well. And we have actually found, last year we were able to bring some 8th graders to an open mic put on Friends of the Island, which is the organization we partner with to go into Rikers. So the youth got to, be exposed to a whole different kind of open mic that way. And culture is definitely a weapon. So as much as we can break walls, even if it's just virtually. Thank you. I have another education question. Oh, Matt, that you also are an educator. So if you wanted to jump in on any of these, this is welcome. I consider anyone who, my definition of educator is really, really big. So of all 3 of our guests, feel free to jump in. The last specific education question that we have is what topics or concepts would you want to be included in a revolutionary curriculum of any age? And what do we need to learn to unlearn?
What do we need to learn to unlearn? I don't think that there's anything we don't need to unlearn. The very founding of this country and everything that it is taught throughout its institutions is built on the false premise of white supremacy. Nonetheless, that's what we see all the time. So from 1619 to 2020, that's what we've been dealing with, and that's what we've been indoctrinated with, whether it's this ain't no shade on Christians and churches, but that's what we've been indoctrinated, a white Jesus in the churches, right? When we look at magazines, when we look at newspapers, when we look at TV, we look at film. So I don't think there's anything about, it might be some stuff like within our insular families, because there have been families that have held on to the idea of it takes a village. So there have been things that we did growing up. Like I grew up in a time where everybody, Miss Ann, Miss Sarah, Miss whoever, Miss Elizabeth, they put me in check. And by the time I got home, my mother or my grandmother knew it. So even like that doesn't need to be unlearned. And we created a way of holding on to that despite all the other things that we had learned. So a lot of stuff on the outside level, we need to unlearn. And then there's some things about our insular families that we should definitely be holding on. But just about every aspect of history needs to be unlearned and relearned, because we've all been
American history.
What'd you say, baby?
Especially American history. The American history is nothing but a lie, totally lie. And then it needs to be relearned too. I mean, the truth of what this here country has historically been all about. It's never been about freedom, justice, and equality, ever. And it isn't today. We need to actually teach the truth and relearn and get rid of the lie. What's his name? Howard Zinn.
Mm-hmm.
he has a pretty good history about America. That's a start, you know. If you want to get to white America, that's one of the few white American historians that I would recommend that people read. But as you said, Dequi, that history itself, the American history needs to be relearned and for the most part gotten rid of. That George Washington never told a lie. That's the biggest lie that's been told. Man was nothing but a liar, a slave driver. They never told me that in school, that this man chased his slaves that ran away till the day he died to bring them back and bring them back into slavery. No one told us that. All they told us that he cut down the cherry tree and he could not tell a lie about it. He had to be truthful. Bullshit. The man was a racist slave owner. That's part of history. That's American. That's part of the history we need to learn instead of, I won't say relearn, because we never learned it, but a lot of us never did learn it. But I'm agreeing with Dequi. All of the American history needs to be unlearned and relearned.
Mm-hmm. And even our ways of, even our ways of how we've learned to deal with each other, like we don't see each other. We don't talk. We live in a time now where neighbors don't speak. You could live in the same building and people don't speak. You don't know the names of people, you know, like those kinds of things. We need to go back. We need to, some people, because they've never had that, like young people don't know what community looks like, because ever since they flooded our communities with crack, they just decimated our communities. So there were no more communities. So there's a whole generation of people that don't know what a community looks like. So they have to learn what community means. Sorry, Matt.
No, not at all. I guess I really wanted to start where Diane, began leading us in terms of this question about our relationship with administration and how we sort of get through. And I guess the first thing I want to say, and this is also in keeping with what Rosa said, if we're going to try to be Maroons, we're going to run away from those old enslaving concepts. And the first concept is, what is a teacher? Because, I was paid for a long, long time to be a master teacher in the New York City Department of Education. I got tenure at a very young age. I then became a teacher trainer and then became a professor and author. And it's clear to me that the master teachers, the unpaid master teachers, are the people that we just heard from here, Sister Dequi and Sekou. These are the master teachers that I continue to learn from. And I'll often talk to folk when the three of us are doing speaking, and we're talking about our dear still in prison comrades and warriors. Say, if you want to do a doctorate in social change, you should go to the university of that correctional institution or that federal penitentiary or that state, because it's in those places where David Gilbert and Russell Maroon Shoatz and Jalil Muntaqim and Imam Jamil Al-Amin, where they will be giving us the doctorates that we need in the societies we're looking to build. So yes, Dequi and Sekou are the master teachers, and that's the first thing I want to say. Second thing, just to be maybe a little less coy and more direct, one thing I did learn in those years in the classroom, and I've since retired the last few years, was this. And it's in keeping with what Sekou and Dequi said conceptually, but I think this is a tactical piece that's also in the framework of being Maroons. There's very little, actually, that we're going to get ever from most administrators currently in any systems anywhere. But there is a power, and the power, as people who are in the system, who are educators, even semi-unofficial educators like Sister Dequi, But certainly if you're a teacher, you have a power to close the door. And yes, they're trying every minute of every day to snoop in and look at the cameras and have reasons why they can come in 5 times a month or 10 times a minute. But ultimately, you close the door, and when you close the door, that is your classroom, and you have the ability to change a life. You have the ability to educate the next generation of the leadership of the nations. And that ability is the Maroon ability. And now I'm going to go to a master educator, if I may, another master educator, because of course, in addition to everything that was said, we also recognize that Sekou was a comrade and colleague and student of brother Minister Malcolm X, El Haj Malik El Shabazz. And another key colleague of his was one of the century's great educators, great historians, John Heinrich Clarke. And when we go around and do things with this book, we'll often, and I did put a link to the book, and I know others did in the chat, we often try to start with this quote from Brother John Heinrich Clarke about history. Dr. Clarke said, "If people don't know where they have been and what they have been, they don't know what they are. They don't know where they're going, where they're going to have to go, or where they still have to be. History," Dr. Clarke wrote, "is like a clock. It tells you your time of day. It's like a compass that you use to locate yourself on the map of human geography, politically, culturally, financially." And that's the great historian, Dr. John Henry Clarke, that we quote in the very beginnings of this book. I guess I'll say one little other thing, just a quick little thing. And then I'll try to shut up for a long time. You know, there are snippets in the miseducation history books that Sekou and Dequi have spoken about and that we're all aware of. So now, if you're in a very modern, you'll get a one sentence about the Black Panther Party. And it'll only be about Huey and Bobby and about Oakland, and it'll only be a sentence. But you use that sentence to open up the conversation. And when that door is closed, you turn that sentence into a unit. Similarly, there'll only be one sentence about John Brown, the terrorist. Almost every history textbook in the United States has that sentence about John Brown, the terrorist. And again, like you were trying to do at the beginning of the program, we take that sentence to open up the conversation to say, what did Minister Malcolm mean when he said, in answer to the question about can white people support the Black liberation movement, he said, well, if we're going to talk about white people, we need more folk like Brother John Brown. What did he mean by that? Why did he say that? Why did he reference Brown? Was it because he took up arms? Well, maybe. Was it because he was so devout? Well, maybe. Was it because he understood that the leadership had to come from African peoples like Grandma Harriet Tubman Moses? Well, maybe. There were lots of things about what Malcolm meant in pointing to Brown that we need to unpack, not just that one sentence about terrorism. So let's take those sentences here and there, those moments here and there, and let's unpack them into the building of a real people's history, like Howard Zinn, like Jay Sakai in the book Settlers, which is another history of the US. So Jay Sakai, Settlers, Howard Zinn, and others. Let's unpack the real history as we work to build a new history today.
Thank you. And before we go to, Laura says, great points, Matt, teach. And I love, yes, noticing the master teachers that we have in the room and all of our opportunities to get into the real liberatory education. Diane, do you have any more questions from yourself or the Ed Unit for Sister Dequi before we move? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. I am so thankful for your responses and for your wisdom, because one thing that's been very clear to me now is that the way curriculums are written and the way the syllabus is written that they give us, it comes from a place of judgment of it is racist and it is judgmental and it vilifies. I mean, here to even question John Brown as a terrorist really puts us on the defensive, already planting a seed that he was bad. You know, to even mention it, it shouldn't even, not that he was a liberator, but that he was bad. And it really it raises my awareness of how I'm going to phrase these questions or pose these questions to students. So yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to express my thanks. I just also wanted to share, Sister Rosa, if you don't mind me sharing very briefly, that since this summer's tragedies, you know, with you know, the killing of Black and brown individuals, you know, George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and others, I and another teacher got together and we started the Curtis High School Black and Brown Coalition of Teachers. And we started out sometime, I think it was mid-July, and we, you know, got a Zoom meeting together, and many of the teachers expressed fear that they would be, you know, bullied and repercussions would come because of our activism. But we're up now to the 5th meeting. The teachers are getting stronger every day. They want more. I am so inspired by the Maroon Party and by everything we're doing. And it's given me wings and it's given me a voice. So we are organizing at Curtis. More to come.
That's wonderful. Thank you. You know, I would just like to say, I wish I had the book. Albert Noah Washington, who was one of our political prisoners, who was murdered by state-sanctioned medical neglect in, I think when he passed, he was in Clinton. It was about 20 years ago now, because he passed. He was murdered in 2000, I should say. But he has a poem, and he says, "Who you think I am is determined by who you are." Like, I'm paraphrasing it because I don't have the book in front of me, but he's talking about how you see me is determined by how you see yourself and what your politics are and what your frame of reference. So we know that, you know, in the US military, people can go around the world and murdering people and they're not considered a terrorist because they're working for the United States military, but everybody else is a terrorist. So I mean, that's part of the explanation right there. Like, I was really interested in that film, John Brown, but I love that, like, yeah, that's countering the narratives that they put forth, because how you see me is determined by how you see yourself. So if I find it, if I get a break from here, matter of fact, I'll just find the poem, Rosa, and I'll send it to you. Because Noah was so, you know, like all of our political prisoners, he was a great human being and wisdom, and as Matt said, a master teacher. There is not one political prisoner that has insights and intelligence. They all have it. They're soldiers, both intellectually as well as soldiers in the, you know, in the fighting sense.
That's right.
That you educators have not seemed to mention. I think back when I was coming up in the movement, early 60s through 70s, emphasis was put on independent schools, community schools, Black schools, Puerto Rican schools, Native American schools, us taking control of the educational monies, fighting for those monies to come in and could have that control so we can teach what our children need to learn. I think that needs to be rethought of and put out there again, because their you don't have, you are the administrators then we are the administrators. We do not only do we do the teaching, but we draw up the curriculum, we control the funds, the finances, how it goes. We should be fighting to control those finances and control and creating schools that will teach our children a true education, an education that they can really learn and become whole human beings. So just wanted to throw that out because I haven't heard nobody talking about our own schools, controlling the schools, controlling the finances that control the schools. You know, this is where I know that's a big question, and it would take a real movement to create, but we need to be thinking about getting rid of the systemic white supremacist society, period. Everything in it, and education is a spot where we have to start. We talk about getting rid of the police. You know, the police are horrible, but they don't do as much damage as the educational system. The educational system is worse than the police. But I'll leave it at that.
Wait.
Yes, talk about it.
Can you say why you say that?
Why I say what? That the education is?
Yes, can you explain why?
Because they take our children at the beginning of their lives, 5, 6, 7, and start teaching them lies and teaching them how to be intellectual slaves, how to be labor slaves, how to stay enslaved by this system. And so it don't only just brutalize 100,000 of us a year, it brutalizes millions of us a year, every year. And that's why I say it, because they have such a control over our children who are us, because our children become us. They become the politicians that's selling us out today. They become the black police that shoot us in the head right along with their white counterpart. They become the soldier that go over into Iran and oppress other oppressed people, you know? So yes, that's why I say it, because
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that's an excellent point. Thank you. It's the long term, right? It's the, thank you. That was a great point.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And
Yeah,
the chat is lighting up. The chat is lighting up.
We can have thousands killed, but millions are imprisoned in their minds. Millions of brain cells are killed. Millions of lives are ended at very young ages, even though they're still breathing, because of what happens in education.
Yes.
Yes,
I left school at the age of 15. I was actually gone at the age of 12, 11. I decided I didn't want no parts of it. I used to run away and from school. I played hooky in the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Unlike most kids don't start until they get into middle school. I started in elementary school. So some of us who have a little more, I don't know what, rebel in them or whatever it is that made me do what I did, reject school at a very young age. And that's why we reject it, because we see that it's not nothing that's developing us the way we want to be developed and helping us grow into what we want to grow into.
Right. Joy says in the chat, she says, truth. They indoctrinate students to be exploited or made disposable as human capital. And Matef, Brother Matef, who's been with us all through Black August, good to have you back, says the ruling class uses each and every institution Elder Sekou is mentioning to suppress us. So we have some parents on this call. We have a lot of educators, as I said before, on this call. And I just really love that everyone is speaking to this moment in time where we have to seize the time. And we actually are being asked or being forced to stop our reliance and dependence on the systems because they're not opening up. So we cannot use them as the daycare center. And we have to start to rely on our own creativity and community control. How are we going to educate our kids with what we want them to be educated with, right? And how are they going to be educating us as the teachers that they are, as the youth that they are, and practicing that going back and forth. So it is an extremely important time, and we're creating our own schools, just like this one right here. This is off the grid education, and hopefully spreading out from all the pods that are here. Every single person here is creating their own way of education through liberation. So thank you. This is right on time. And I'm going to come over to you, Brother Sekou, for a few more questions, specifically for you, my dear. So because you were a part of the Panther 21, anybody can Google your name and find out information about you from different points of view. How would you like to be introduced? How would you like to be introduced, Brother Sekou?
I'm not sure I want to be introduced, but but I think I would want to be remembered as a revolutionary, as a Maroon. You know, when we talk about, I think about Maroons in the traditional way, those who ran away from the slave master and went into the woods and not only lived, but fought back and survived for year after year, raised families out there, you know. So I guess I would want to be introduced like that I wasn't, I spent 13 years underground myself as a Maroon, you know, fighting back. And because of that struggle, I wound up doing 33 years in prison, you know. But those are the sacrifices that has to be made for a oppressed people to become free, you know. And we have to be willing to hold us up, hold the people that I heard Matt and Dequi talking about, Jalil Muttaqin, Sundiata Acoli, Jalil Alameen, Matulu Shakur, people like that. These are the brothers, and there were many sisters also. We definitely can't forget, because when you talk about the Black Panther Party, then you're talking about women. The backbone, the control of the party was under the women. The women were the ones that was doing everything. I started trying to talk about the different things they were doing, but it's everything. There was no area in the party that the women did not take an active role in. And so when you talk about how I would want to be introduced, just Sekou, someone from the hood that didn't like what he seen and decided that he would want to be a part of a positive change in that, you know. And I would like to be remembered as someone who did that took an active role in trying to make this a better world for people, for humanity.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And we often talk, you know, we do assessments and we talk after every one of these. And we did get a chance to come to a specific book release webinar that the three of you put out there. And every time the three of you talk, you are always talking about other people that are still on the inside, other people that still need to be free, other teachers that have taught you. And that alone, that act of community building is just absolutely incredible and inspiring. And yeah, what makes me feel very honored to have you. Who's that there, Matt? Ah, yes, I recognize that smile.
Sundiata Acoli.
Yeah, Asada has a poem about Sundiata's smile.
Yes. And when we think of Asada, we should always think about Sundiata, because he was right there on that highway with her. Mm-hmm. And I've often heard my wife say that Asada comes from a movement. And we can't forget that there was a whole movement of people, other sisters and brothers, who did the same thing that she did, struggled the same way she did, got up early in the morning to feed children like she did, went into the health center to serve the people in the health clinics. We went into the clothing drives, went from door to door to organize. We had many sisters and brothers that did that. And so we need to realize that that's a whole movement of people, and that movement should be as recognized as she is. And our political prisoners should definitely be as recognizable as she is.
Absolutely. We have a question from our international, we have two questions from our international group. What helped you when you were on the inside? What sayings or practices helped you to not lose your mind? The 33 years is a really long time. Some of the people on this call are younger than that.
Well, a lot of it came from the outside. Letters from people saying, we heard of what you've done, we've read of what you've done, and we really support it. We agree with you. We learned from you. You know, those type of encouraging words, knowing that other people, that your struggle wasn't in vain, that there were the people that you thought you were trying to reach, you actually was reaching some of them. Because a lot of times when you're in there, you do get discouraged because you don't see but so much. But when you get a letter from a young person, 16 years old, telling you that they read about you and they appreciate you and they consider you their hero, I mean, those are the things that prop you up, that tell you, get up in the morning. Don't get up, work out. You know, do your push-ups, do your sit-ups, do your, you know, get out in the yard and jog. Stay strong, because there's people who are looking at you, who believe in you. So you live for the people. I mean, I think it was Che Guevara said that revolutionaries are motivated through love. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he was saying. It's love that motivates you. And so when you hear from the people, that love balls up into you, and you realize that you have to do for them. You have to survive for them. You can't give this victory to the pigs if you don't have to. I mean, some of us pay that price, not because we want to, but because we have to. We done lost so many of our brothers and sisters in these institutions. You know, they paid that price, but they fought up until the end. They was struggling, they was teaching, they was letting the pigs know that I'll go on. When I'm gone, I'll be still talking about you and what needs to be done with you for our people, you know, and they are. You know, how many of I heard Dequi talking about Noor. Noor been gone 20 years, we still talking about him. And 20 years from now, we will still be talking about him, because he was one of our heroes. He is one of our heroes. We talk about Malcolm, how long Malcolm been gone, and we continue to talk about him, you know. So because they live on through us, and through their work, the work that they put in, you know. So I think that's what motivates us to go on while we in the prison systems, or we in the jails and gulags around the world, because people are going through it everywhere. But they fought for their oppressed people. They knew that what they were fighting for. They knew the chance that they were taking. I knew what I was getting into. I didn't go into this with my eyes closed. I knew that, in fact, to be alive today, I'm shocked. I never thought I'd live to be this long. I'm an old man now, you know, but I never thought that would happen. I was told by people that you won't make it past 25, you know. Mm-hmm. I got children now in their 50s, you know, and I'm here to see them. That's the wonderful thing about it, you know. So what kept me going on? That's what kept me getting up every day. The love of my people, the love of my children, the love of my family, that's what keeps me going today.
Beautiful. And you have a beautiful family. Very
Yes, I do.
blessed. Very
God bless.
blessed to have met them. And
Right.
thank you for speaking to the power of letters. Brother Shep was on at the end of our last call last Monday and said that Maroon is not doing so well, that he's been moved around a lot. It's really getting to his spirit. So we are starting a 77 letters campaign that I'll let Spirit talk about in a second after this next question here. But it is good to hear that the letters, you know, that they really make an impact.
Oh yes, they do. They make a difference.
Beautiful. Good. Oh, speaking of impact, our next international question is, what kind of impact do you hope the book Look for Me in the Whirlwind from the Panther 21 to 21st Century Revolutions creates? So what kind of impact would you like from this beautiful book? And thank you for the visuals. Keep coming, Matt. Keep bringing those up. It looks gorgeous. We're ordering a whole bunch for all our Maroons here. But Brother Sekou, what kind of impact do you wish from this book?
That people learn from it, that they read it, that they get to know some of the revolutionaries that have struggled in this country, that they would get to know that they were just regular people who went through the same thing that other regular people went through, but had enough heart, enough intellect, enough courage to step forward and do a little more, you know, to fight their oppression, to fight their oppressor, to organize within their community to help others fight their oppression, you know. So that's what I would like to see it do, to educate. That's what we've been talking about. I would like the book to help educate people of what they can do. That a revolutionary is a regular person like them, and that they can accomplish. People look to what Asada did and what Malcolm did, what different people that we think of, Martin Luther or Stokely Carmichael, Mary Baraka. I mean, we think of these names and think of them as our heroes and as extra special people, but they were just regular people. They went through the same things that we went through. They put their pants on one leg at a time the same way we do. They used the bathroom the same way we do. They did all the same things that we do. They're regular people, but they were able to do extraordinary things because they wanted to, because they were committed to do them, and they did them, and they continue to do, you know. And so that's what I would like to see out of the book do, is to educate. You know, I'm sure Dequi and Matt can add to that.
You stole my transition from me, Brother Sekou, because yes, I know this has been a team effort. What impact would you both like to see, Sister Dequi?
Well, I echo, of course, what Sekou says, and adding to that, it's not like including the lives, the sacrifices, and the work of those who are still on the inside, right? Making sure that we don't just remember to say their names, but we remember to include their lives and their freedom in our work. What I hope is that it reminds people of the importance of people who have the lived experience, telling their histories and her stories, because you know, Sekou is working on his book, and I'm always saying, yeah, you need to write your book, because so many other people are writing books, and it's not from the perspective of the person or the people who lived it, right? And what I like about this book is that it talks about New York, whereas most of the stuff that people learn about the Black Panther Party is on the West Coast, right? And just how important these books are, because you know, so many of the people are no longer here that were part of the 21. Of course, you know, Sundiata is still in prison, but there's a lot of people who Afeni is not here. You know, there are people who are no longer here. So this book, these writings, these, you know, this is their collective autobiography. It's them talking. about why and what was happening at that time. And then of course the, you know, the fast forward to the now. So it's juxtaposing the then and the now, which is so important. And if anything else, I agree with what Sekou says, is that it helps to inspire people and teach people and influence people that everybody can do something, and that we all have the power within us to make a contribution, right? We just have to put it in our mind that yes, we're going to do this. I used to hate when people would introduce me and they would say tireless. I'm not tireless. I'm tired, but there are things that need to be done. And we need more people to say, yes, I'm tired. I have this to do. I have that to do. But some portion of my day is going to be committed to this. Like with the Black Panther Party. People who were in the Black Panther Party got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go feed other people's children, to make sure that those breakfast programs were ready to go when it was time to feed. Like, that's sacrifice. That's commitment. That didn't mean they wasn't tired. That just means that they didn't let that stop them. So I guess that's, you know, I have great hopes, you know.
Period, as the kids say. Don't let it stop you.
Right.
What do you hope, Mr. Matt Meyer?
I guess not for nothing. Going through the kind of process that the three of us went through to put this book out, and coming out the other end stronger and closer to each other rather than the opposite, says something. And one of the things it says is that when you're the third person to speak, probably the other two have said everything you think about already. So I really agree with what Sekou and Dequi said, but I'm going to share two stories about things I learned in the process of doing this book that taught me something about organization. One was the rationale behind it, and it's a financial question. We're first talking about it, and I was in some of those conversations. One of the things they said, the original book, not this redo version that we did that's 2 books in one, the whole original book that came out back in the day, and all of the additional chapters that we framed it with, beginning and end. But the original book was something that they, as co-authors and co-contributors, couldn't afford, because all they could do was find the thing on eBay or whatever for hundreds and hundreds of dollars a book. So he said, no, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous financially. It's ridiculous in terms of access. It's ridiculous in terms of people's lives. So we're going to put this thing back into print. And the other is a historical piece that we were talking about. Oh, okay, the 21. Everyone knows the Panther 21. Not much written about him, but 21, a historic case. At the time, the longest and the most expensive case in New York State history. Well, who were the 21 specifically? Got to 23 or 24, but we couldn't figure out who the 21 were, even members of the 21. And that's because, so there are 2 chapters we put together in this book called Counting to 21, of how that number came up with, and why it was so confusing, and why if you Google the Panther 21, you will not find 21 names. And all of that has to do with exactly what Sekou and Dequi were just saying. History has been written and rewritten and commodified in such a way as to really distort the fact that it's made by real people, just plain people, not great martyrs or saints or prophets. Yeah, we have some prophets. Certainly there was a prophetic voice that Malcolm had or that Martin had, but they were figures that couldn't have existed in another period. The period made them as much as they made the period. And so that point, the point that books that mythologize our heroes beyond recognition, not as organizers, but as somehow perfect people, really doesn't just tell lies. it also distorts the fact that movements are built. They're built in bad times, in poor times. They're built in tiny, tiny steps. They're built when you least expect it. So one day you think everything is going to hell, and the next day there's an uprising and 15,000 people are at a demonstration 5 blocks from your house that you never expected to be there. So we can't be so surprised at this last period of uprising, and we can't be so surprised at the fascism around the corner either. So that's real. I'm going to just put into the chat the fact that after we did this book, we did some collaborating also on a book extending the work of one of the 21 named Kwesi Balagoon. And Kwesi is another prophetic voice for our time in many ways because he was such a unique but also human person. So his uniqueness shines out, but so does his humanity, the fact that he was so much a symbol of that. No revolutionary really moves forward without a great love for the people. In some ways, that love, that prophetic love, that was part of Kwesi's life and is spotlighted in that book I just put into the chat, is a piece of this larger story. So yes, it's why the Panther 21 history hasn't really gotten its due. It's why the one sentence of the Panthers or other figures. It's why we think about John Brown and not, oh, say, Marilyn Buck, who is our modern John Brown, in my evaluation, and so many other women organizers. I guess I'll just end by saying this. You know, one of the things that Kwame Ture, that Stokely, taught us, and yes, Stokely is one of those historic figures who can be looked on as a great hero, but when asked about what people needed to do, he always said 3 things, and I loved the simplicity of those 3 things, and so he repeated. He says there are 3 things you need to do to make change in the world. You need to organize, organize, organize. And so that's what we want this book to do. We want it to be a tool in building organization and organizing, plain and simple.
Yes, yes, we started our school off, I think that was in June. We had our, or what's the difference between organizing and mobilizing? We had our Maroon Monday on that exact topic. So thanks for bringing it back. And speaking of organizing, we have a campaign right about now. Funk Soul Brother Spirit, are you there to introduce our 77 in 7 days?
Peace, y'all. Thank you so much, Dequi. Love you, Matt, Sekou, Baba Sekou. We got this campaign as you know, when we hear from our elders and the people that we respect and love, when they ask for a call, we try to do as our sensei Fred Ho said, try to like go above and beyond and exceed. So there was a letter that was asked, or a few that was asked last week to send to Maroon. So we decided to do a whole campaign. So all of y'all in this school, we need 77 letters to send in 7 days for Maroon's 77th birthday. August 23rd was his birthday. We want to lift his spirits up. We want to fill those boxes. We want to get that out there. So I put the link several times. You can send it to us. We'll do all the postage. We'll handle it. If you want to include your address, we'll post it for you. Just send us your letter and what you want to write to him. A poem, something uplifting, saying that you remember that you are Maroon, that you're adopting this legacy, that you're continuing to struggle, anything of that nature. Y'all know what it is. We just need y'all to sign on and do that. I shared it on social media. So when you see it out there, share it with your people. And after the Maroon Party for Liberation decided that, you know, we have a lot of political prisoners still. So that's hopefully the first of many campaigns that we're going to be doing in abundance as a collective, as a formation, because I think it's really important that we go out there in numbers. And I know they're individual writing campaigns, but I think it'll make a big difference, some impact. At least, you know, if you want to think of that Miracle on 34th Street, I remember that program. When they came in, it was like, Santa's not real. And everybody started writing. Maroons are real, they're alive, they exist, and we love them, you know, so we got to show that support in abundance, y'all, in abundance. That's all. Peace and love.
That's right. And Spirit's about to play a little short video. Beautiful. Yes, our political prisoners are real, and like anyone else in this world, need real love. So we're going to send it in abundance. I love that. And if each of us on this call find 2 other people to write, if we each write and then we find two other people to write, we will surpass our 77 easily. So that's a beautiful challenge. Thank you, Spirit. Before we come to Matt, we're going to give our speakers a 10-minute break, and we're going to have all our maroons come back on. So if you are here as an audience member, go ahead and show your face. Spirit's going to play the video we tried to play. He's in a better place for what's it called? Wi-Fi. So there they are. Hello, beautifuls. Good to see you. Yes, yes.
I gotta tell you, I like that part much better. I mean, I understand the technology part, but seeing people's faces is just so wonderful. Thank y'all all for being here. Thank you. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Yay. I know that sounds corny, but I'm really happy to see faces.
No, we're all about corny. We're all about the corny, man. I took a screenshot of that, man. I just, yeah, no, come on now.
Yes.
Because we're real people and we want to be in the same room
real.
together, but at least let me see your faces now. Come on.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It does lift the spirit just to see all the smiles. Yes, and there's Fitz with his family. Welcome back from the mountaintop. Beautiful. Yes, amazing. Yeah, so many good people that have joined us every week. Gorgeous. All right, Spirit, I'm talking too much. Go ahead and please play that video.
Brown. In 1831, his 4-year-old son Frederick died. Brown himself got really sick and his businesses struggled, causing him to get in big debt. The next year, Dianthe died while giving birth to an unnamed son who also died shortly afterward. Clearly, this was a low point in Brown's life, but he soon met someone new, Mary Ann Day. She was 16, he was 32. They married on June 14th, 1833. Eventually, they had 13 more kids together, although only 6 of them made it to adulthood. In 1836, the Browns moved to what is now Kent, Ohio. The next year, after a pro-slavery mob murdered the influential abolitionist Elijah Parrish Lovejoy, Brown stood up in the back of a church and said, quote, "Here before God, in the presence of these witnesses, from this time I consecrate my life to the destruction of slavery," unquote. Meanwhile, in Ohio, he had attempted again to operate a tannery, but struggled to make money from it. By 1839, he was again heavily in debt and ended up losing his farm and getting arrested when he refused to give it up to its new owner. A federal court declared him bankrupt on September 28, 1842. The next year, 4 of his kids died of dysentery. Around this time, Brown had taken an interest in sheep and wool. He partnered with a dude named Simon Perkins and became a shepherd, but he never made much money from wool either. In 1846, he returned to New England, convincing Perkins to come with him and moving the family to Springfield, Massachusetts, where the whole abolitionist movement was starting to take off. Brown's experiences in Springfield had a profound effect on him. It was there he got to see lectures by 2 African-American abolitionists who had escaped slavery earlier in life, Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth. He also got to see the famous abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison. By 1850, the wool business had struggled again, and Brown had become more radicalized than ever. In other words, now increasingly, Brown talked about violence as the only solution to end slavery. Brown told folks that God had personally selected him to lead a major slave rebellion. In response to the fugitive slave law passed that year as part of the Compromise of 1850, he created a militant group to protect runaway slaves. By this time, he and his family lived in North Elba, New York, where a rich abolitionist named Gerrit Smith actually gave away free land to African Americans at a farming colony called Timbuktu. Brown wanted to assist blacks trying to establish new communities in the area, and Smith gave him some land to farm while he did so. Brown was happy there, but his attention shifted back west after the passage of a horrible law known as the Kansas-Nebraska Act. The law created the territories of Kansas and Nebraska and established popular sovereignty in both territories, allowing the settlers who lived in both to decide whether or not to have slavery there. Well, 5 of John Brown's sons, John Brown Jr., Jason, Owen, Frederick II, and Salmon, all decided to get up and move to Kansas Territory to help it become a free state, not a slave state. They ended up near the town of Osawatomie. Shortly after his sons arrived in Kansas, it became known as, quote, Bloody Kansas, or, quote, Bleeding Kansas, due to the violence there between anti-slavery folks and pro-slavery folks trying to establish power there. For more about this violence, you should most definitely check out my video, Why Kansas Hates Missouri. It was crazy, man. Anyway, it was this violence that caused John Brown himself to move out to Kansas.
The reason he ultimately came here was that his son, John Brown Jr., wrote him a letter that stated, you know, Father, we need guns more than anything else, because they had come out here with a rifle, with a pistol, and a shotgun, and that's all the 5 brothers had between them.
I mean, he was a father worried about the safety of his sons, after all. He got there in the fall of 1855, along with his son Oliver and son-in-law Henry Thompson. They all helped to make Kansas a free state.
John Brown, out of concern for his family, came out here and literally stopped at 4 or 5 abolitionist towns and gathered up enough weapons to fill up a wagon.
Like I said earlier, I'm in front of the John Brown Museum, and inside that museum is the Adair cabin. Brown and his sons spent much time here. It was the home of Florella Adair, Brown's half-sister, and her husband, the Reverend Samuel Adair. They let John Brown and his sons stay there sometimes.
And they could come and go from here because it was very close to Osawatomie, which was an abolitionist stronghold.
The original location of that cabin was about a mile from this location. They moved it here, built a museum around it, and today you can still see how it really looked. Later, Brown added on an addition as a place where runaway slaves could stay. But yeah, this cabin became a headquarters of sorts for Brown and his sons. Keep in mind that at the time John Brown moved to Kansas, he was a nobody. He wasn't famous. Nobody knew who he was until he started killing people. Killing people? Yep, that started in 1856. And May 21st of that year, a group of pro-slavery forces destroyed and looted much of Lawrence, one of the leading anti-slavery towns in Kansas. When Brown found out about this, he was angry. Very angry. He also was angry. Very angry. After he heard about Preston Brooks beating the crap out of the anti-slavery senator, Charles Sumner, the day after the sacking of Lawrence. I have a video about that too, by the way. Brown had had enough. On the night of May 24th and morning of May 25th, he led a group of abolitionists who dragged pro-slavery settlers out of their homes and murdered them. This is the approximate location of where it happened, and it became known as the Potawatomi Massacre. Brown went into hiding, but Captain Henry Pate captured and arrested 2 of his sons, John Brown Jr. and Jason, and destroyed the family homestead. On June 2nd, Brown caught up to Pate and a group of Missourians he was leading near what today is Baldwin City. After some fighting, Brown and his forces captured 22 of Pate's men and held them for ransom. Brown agreed to release them after Pate released his sons. This became known as the Battle of Blackjack. After this, Brown and his sons went back into hiding, but continuing to lead guerrilla attacks throughout northeastern Kansas. On August 30th, General John William Reed and between 250 and 400 pro-slavery forces attacked Osawatomie. Despite being outnumbered more than 7-1, Brown and his small group put up a good fight trying to defend the town. However, they killed Brown's son Frederick II and ultimately took the town over, looting and burning it to the ground. Still, Brown emerged as an abolitionist hero after that battle. The violence calmed down quite a bit in the fall, and Brown and 3 of his sons returned back east to try to raise money for the abolitionist cause. For the next 2 2 years, he not only raised money, but gathered weapons. He was planning something big. He returned to Kansas in the summer of 1858 to continue leading raids and freeing slaves. He also spent some time in Iowa, but ultimately ended up back east to carry out a plan he had in his head for decades. He wanted to raid the southern slave states to free all the slaves. It was ambitious. It was crazy. It was totally John Brown. Brown even wrote a constitution for the area and the southern slave states for after he took them over. His constitution called for things like direct elections of the president and vice president, working on roads and other public projects as a punishment for crimes, and the banning of, quote, profane swearing, filthy conversation, indecent behavior, indecent exposure of the person, and unlawful intercourse of the sexes, unquote. While Brown got several delegates to sign his constitution, he struggled to get volunteers to join his forces. Throughout 1859, he traveled the continent trying to get people to help him with his planned invasion. He tried to get Frederick Douglass to join him, but Douglass politely declined. At one point, the Harriet Tubman joined him to help gather up more former slaves to join his forces. Soon, Brown had his eyes on Harper's Ferry, Virginia, which today is in West Virginia, as the place where he wanted to begin the rebellion. His plan was to raid a federal arsenal there and use the weapons from the arsenal to give to local slaves so that they could then help with the uprising. Well, spoiler alert, that plan would fail miserably. First of all, Brown could only gather 21 men to help him raid the arsenal. On the rainy night of October 16th, 1859, Brown and his men did easily take over the arsenal, which was guarded by just one dude. They even cut telegraph lines and rounded up hostages who were nearby. However, the next day, the Virginia militia arrived and surrounded them. Brown's insurrection was already failing. By the end of the day, 8 of his men were dead or dying. 2 of the dead were Brown's sons, Watson and Oliver. 5 others were separated from the main group. 2 had been captured, and 2 had escaped across the Potomac River. Brown's men did end up killing 4 people. The next day, federal troops arrived under the command of Robert E. Lee and had surrounded Brown and his remaining men in an engine house, which today is known as John Brown's Fort. Brown refused to surrender, apparently now wanting to be a martyr at that spot. However, he would be a martyr later on at a different spot. The Marines swept in and captured him along with 7 others. They were quickly put on trial for murder, conspiracy, and treason against Virginia. It was a quick trial. On November 2nd, just a couple weeks after the raid, the jury found Brown guilty on all 3 counts. The judge sentenced him to be hanged in public. Brown received little sympathy from most Americans. Even most abolitionists distanced themselves from him, saying he was too extreme and that this was not the way to end slavery, man. William Lloyd Garrison called the raid, quote, misguided, wild, and apparently insane. On the morning of his death, he wrote these foreboding words, quote, I, John Brown, am now quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away but with blood. Many historians point to his raid on Harper's Ferry as a big cause of the American Civil War, by the way. John Wilkes Booth, the famous actor who later assassinated Abraham Lincoln, snuck into Brown's execution. Major Thomas Stonewall Jackson, who became famous later during the American Civil War, which, by the way, started a year and a half later, also was there. He wrote later that day, quote, John Brown was hung today at about 11:30 a.m. He behaved with unflinching firmness. Brown died at 59 years old. He was buried at
Thank you all. I had asked my dear co-pilot Spirit to end it, as I know that our time is limited and that is something that we can all search up. But I thought that he ended it on a perfect note with John Brown's last report being unflinching. So dedicated to the very, very end. Thank you. Matt Myers, we're coming for you. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So if it looks like we naturally turned our computers off, and we'll all come back on before the end of our call to show our faces once again. I also want to say thank you to everybody who has been putting quotes and love in the chat as we go along, including some of our panelists here, because that is another way to show our energy. And if we were in a room, we'd be able to see each other snapping and clapping. And since we're not there, the chat is what we have. Yes, yes, good. And Spirit put the John Brown video in the chat as well. All right, Matt, we've got some tough questions for you today. I'm really excited about these questions. So if you
By the way, before the questions, I want to thank you for having me come after a video on John Brown, Dequi and Sekou. It's really great, you know, to have that warm-up grouping. I don't know how. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, you know, I like to challenge my own, and I see you as a mentor to me. So this is, in my mind, perfectly curated. So we have a lot of people that we work with, especially white folks, white presenting folks, that seem a lot more comfortable in the world of fighting for environmental justice in like the War Resistant League. And we are curious as to how can we bond together more and have more of our white folks in the Black liberation fight? And how have you found it to be? Like you yourself, Laura Whitehorn, you're always in the Black liberation fight, and you're also in other places where there's more white faces. So what would you suggest to bring those fights closer together?
So there are a couple of things, and I'm not surprised to hear that question, and I appreciate it. And I think it is a question that often gets not looked at strategically and not looked at carefully. It's not an easy question, but I think first I want to say something about John Brown and about that video, because one of the things that video did well was sort of go point for point about what really happened. But one thing that I think it did that we were in some ways warning against in our early conversations about history and historiography is that it focused very, very concretely on the acts, and especially on the acts of violence, as opposed to on the ideas of solidarity. And for many of us, Brown's most important contribution was his militant and staunch solidarity. Yes, he put that solidarity into action, and action is necessary. But this country, this empire, this society from the beginning has been fixated on violence and has used the questions of violence and nonviolence to divide us. And so, for example, not mentioned in as strong a way as it needs to is that all that money that John Brown raised, he raised a lot of that from Quakers and nonviolent activists who quietly supported him, even though publicly they were like, oh no, we would never do that. And I think that says something about the moment then and now, because I think, yes, in terms of, yes, and I hear Spirit saying, where you at, Quakers? And it's an important question. And it's an important question for white folk to call out. Where are you at? Where are you standing up? And yes, I also saw Spirit put the extraordinary group that Laura Whitehorn works with and for RAP, Release Aging People. But Laura is also part of this network that some of us have been part of called Standing Up for Racial Justice. And, you know, Surge is just one of many groups over many years, including groups that, you know, I put into the chat this fiction book that Terry Bisson wrote on John Brown, What If? Fire in the Mountain. And Terry was an organizer for a John Brown anti-Klan group. And the fact of the matter is the legacy of John Brown goes beyond his acts, and certainly well beyond his acts of armed struggle, including the fact that a broad militant movement against slavery had to be built. And again, one of the more inspiring things about John Brown was not just the acts, the tactics, the strategies, but also the fact that as part of his belief, and I love that Laura is also putting into the chat, and I can read and talk at the same time, that Quakers are, in fact, a big supporter of rap. And yes, we need to both call out and call in when people are doing good work. But Brown was one of those who said it's not just about ending slavery. We have to recognize people of African descent as our equals, maybe as our superiors, but certainly as part of the society that we are building here, the new society. Now we might say new Africa that we're building here. And that idea of solidarity, not from this position of philanthropy or from some kind of paternalistic place, but this idea that we have to work together to build a liberated society is part of what was important about John's ideas, about John Brown's ideas, not just the gun. Same time, people want to look at the Black Panthers as they were nothing but a gun. And I'm not to say that the armed self-defense wasn't a part of the Panthers, an important part, but if you just look at the gun and you don't look at the breakfast programs, well, then you're missing a key piece of what that history was about. So what are we talking about when we talk about Laura Whitehorn or Susan Rosenberg or Linda Evans or the War Resisters League or other formations that are the nonviolence movement, a Fellowship of Reconciliation, etc.? Well, one of the things is to challenge white people as white people to step up, to do whatever it is they're doing, whatever it is we're doing, and to do more. Because in fact, again, looking at Kwame Ture at Stokely Carmichael, one of the things that looked at the last days of Student Nonviolent and then Student National Coordinating Committee, SNCC, was this idea that there was a split in SNCC where the white folk were asked to leave. And that was never actually the truth. If one looks at, and this is another book I was co-editor of with the Southern activist Mandy Carter and the Chicana activist Elizabeth Petito Martinez, but this book, We Have Not Been Moved, it's also PM Press. And the basis of the title of that book was something that Stokely, that Kwame Ture said, and the SNCC leadership along with him at that time said, which is that we're not looking to tell you white folk to leave the organization. What we're asking you to do is to take the organizing work you want to do and move it into your own communities, to deal with white supremacy, to deal with racism within the white community. Let us deal with organizing the Black community. We don't really need your help doing that. And we certainly don't need your help kind of micromanaging our organizations or our finances or stuff like SNCC. We can deal with SNCC. You go into your communities. And the gauntlet was laid down in 67, 68, 69 to white folk, and we have not been moved, not nearly enough. And so we put out that book some years ago to say, no, it's our job to, yes, recognize when white folk are trying some good stuff, but also call out that we need to do more. We need to have more white folk involved in the work to free all political prisoners, involved in the work to create maroon societies, involved in all of this work. And I guess lastly, I'll say this. At this moment in particular, where identity politics plays such a strong role and where some, it feels like some groups, just sort of can't get together with Black and white together. And I know that's not true for the Maroon Party here. One thing seems certain. If you're going to be a white person doing the work, you're going to get criticized. The only way to avoid criticism is to do nothing. And you know what? We're going to make mistakes. White folks doing the best work, the most important work, who have the most experience, we're going to make mistakes too. We're going to mess up. The only way of not messing up is by doing the supreme mess up of doing nothing. So we have to be open to being criticized, to making mistakes, to having those mistakes corrected, to being accountable, and to being in the conversation. That's the primary key thing. We have to stand up and understand that we have to stand back at the same time.
Beautiful. And I think you led right into my next question. I really appreciate that because we were very honest. We have a group of white Maroons that meets outside in addition to our Monday nights, and really doing some fantastic work, and looking forward to doing some more fantastic work. And, you know, people have said that, like, the message is to show up and shut up, but to stay there, you know, to stay present. And I think that's pretty hard sometimes when people have been raised in different ways. So Matt, you occupy two positions of power. You're a white person, or multiple, more than that, because you're also highly educated, and you're a male. So I'm sure that there's been times when you've been asked to be accountable for how that privilege has crossed over, or might have gotten in the ways. What, if you mind to speak to any particular experience where you were asked to step back, or you felt that you stepped too far forward, and how have you learned as you've grown older to not let that get in the way of the work?
Mm. Well, that may be its own long, I mean, that's a very complicated, it's a very personal and political question. I appreciate that question. I guess I want to harken back to something you said about how hard the work can be. And it's like, we never, I think most of us in this grouping, we never got into the work. We never conceptualized the idea of revolution or maroonage, thinking this was going to be easy. So if it feels hard sometimes, that's right. It should also feel joyous at sometimes. But if it feels joyous all the time, something's wrong. Yeah, it harkens back to what Sister Dequi said about being tireless. No, if you're not tired sometimes, something's wrong. It's exhausting. And yet we have to figure out ways to recharge. And for me, community, these conversations, this engagement is always the best way to recharge. So now I think I want to say something about this organize. I'm part of a collective. I'm part of many organizations. So right now, you know, the most public one that you can Google and find out about is the fact that I'm the Secretary General of this thing called the International Peace Research Association. So I have this added privilege, COVID-19 notwithstanding, of traveling all around the world and getting to be a spokesperson for social change in many, many spaces and places. But at the core, for over 25 years, close to 30 years now, I've been part of a local group here in New York called Resistance in Brooklyn, R&B. It's not a group that gets a lot of publicity. It's not a group that puts itself out very often, but it's a group that's been doing stalwart, consistent work for a long time. Now, why is it important for me to mention R&B at this moment? Well, it's because that's the space where, especially, I'll say to begin with, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat, but I don't know what a bomb diggy is. So at some point, Spirit, who just said that R&B is a bomb diggy, will explain that to me. But in any case,
Bomb diggity, bomb diggity.
You know, no, I understand it, kind of, but you know, okay. Here's the thing. R&B is the space where the mainly women leaders within R&B raked me over the coals. And did I say raked? I'm not sure if I said it in past tense or present tense, or maybe it's happening later tonight. I mean, the critiques about being a talkative, like too loud, or, you know, whatever, of being that white male there, is something that if I have any sense of stepping back and of occupying a space that's useful and strategic for my identity, but not crazy, overarching, taking, you know, all that, it's because I had feminist leadership within my own collective. And then, of course, from people like Dequi and many, many others I talk, Brother Matef is out there, about my first great mentor, who was Sister Mawana Koyate of the All African Women's Revolutionary Union. So over the decades, many, many women, African, Puerto Rican, and these white women in my own collective, but being in a small collective, in this case, a small, intentionally white, anti-racist, anti-imperialist collective, where individual people held me accountable for individual acts every hour of every day. Not often loudly and on a large scale, not always in a major way, hearkening to, major splits, but in ways that internally both enabled me to grow as a person and enabled us to move as a collective to do more effective work. Organize, man. Organize. It doesn't have to be a cadre collective, although that doesn't hurt. Maybe it's a church group. Maybe it's a subgroup of whites within the Maroon Party. But organize. Without organization, we cannot move forward.
Thank you, Matt. And you're getting lots of folks
And
saying,
without white organizations accountable to Black liberation leaders like Sekou and Dequi, or feminist leaders like Dequi and Sekou. Without moving forward in those ways, in those accountable to one another and accountable to leadership ways, we cannot make social change. We cannot learn the lessons of the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and create a new liberation movement for the 21st century. We have to look at that history, not the mythologized history. We have to look at some of these real stories we're trying to tell and learn them so we do better today, tomorrow, and the day after.
thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Give it up for Matt Meyer, folks. And I've always enjoyed to hear you speak, and you do take a challenge to the chin, as one of our members says. And you have a way of being both ideological and ontological with how you speak. And I am very proud to say that the Maroons on this call, we have been really working on both fronts, right? Being accountable to each other, how we can speak, how we can be aware of where we are and articulate what we want and go back and circle back when our awareness was not broad enough. So it's great to hear that, it's just great to hear you confirm that those are the steps that we need to take in order to create a new society, which is our mission. Beautiful. So we're gonna bring it back. Folks, go ahead and drop some love in the chat for all of our speakers. Let them know what you appreciated about them today. I want to have Sister Dequi be the one to close us out. And before that, if Sekou is still here, we'd love to have you close it out as well. Like I said, we have some young folks here. When I say young, also like new to revolutionary work, new to saying that word out of their mouths as I'm a revolutionary organizer, but very, very committed people that have been joining us since June in this school. We are about to kick off season 2 on October 12th, Indigenous Peoples Day of our school, and we're looking to bring in some more people in our next season, AKA semester. So what would you say to give us fire to keep it moving and keep it going? And Sekou, I'll hand the mic to you.
Like Matt said, organize. I mean, that's what we need people to start doing. I mean, we've had a lot of mobilization in recent months, but not that much organization. And I think that would be a key. That would be a key thing to do, and this is a key time to do it. I personally am involved with a few people trying to do some organizing myself, but that's what we have to do. Get with folks with like-minded and organize to accomplish goals, short-term and long-term goals. Set them goals, set strategies to reach them goals, and let's go to work. I mean, do the work. Don't forget our political prisoners. To me, that has to be on the top of everybody's agenda. No movement can be successful if they forget their freedom fighters. They forget those who fell fighting for them. So remember our political prisoners. Do whatever we can to bring them home, support them while they're there, support their families, write them, send them money, send their lawyers money to help with their legal struggles. Find out when they're going to the parole boards and write letters to the parole boards, write their political representatives and demand that they speak up for their political prisoners. There's so many things that they can do, but we need to be, don't forget our political prisoners. That's my message. Let's work for our political prisoners. Let's bring them all home. Those who are still out there in the world, like Asada, like Pete O'Neill, Charlotte O'Neill, and others who might want to come back. I don't know if they want to come back or not, but we should create the conditions so if they want to come back, that they can come back. So let's free them all.
Free them all. Thank you, Brother Sekou. Thank you. Look at this. And I hope you get a chance to check out the chat as well. Many beautiful Maroons writing some tributes here. Keep them coming, keep them coming. If you didn't hear the call, please put your beautiful cameras back on so that we can close out with all of us here and present. Sister Dequi, your closing remarks for tonight.
I want to say I'm so happy to be here, that like we all have a million other things we could be doing, but tonight, this evening, this was definitely the place to be. I'm so inspired by the mix and match and the intergenerationality of all of the people here. It's, you know, it's a reminder that, you know, we can win, we can do this. We just have to build. We have to sometimes get past ourselves, right? And we just have to know that we can, if we can dream it, we can work through it, and we can win. And I just want to say too, because you mentioned that there are newer people here, newer people coming into the work. I said about being tired, but I love Lynn Stewart was our people's attorney, a white woman. She's now an ancestor, but she fought for people. And she used to say that this is a beautiful struggle. And I am testament to that. I can testify to that. It's a beautiful struggle because the people you meet doing this work, planning events, being out there, just like people become your family, your extended family. So although it can be and because sometimes we're human, it's exhausting, it's tiring, it's frustrated. Somebody may have gotten on your nerves, right? But we keep at it because it is a beautiful struggle, because it's participating in something that is bigger than ourselves. And so I want to say to young people, welcome to this beautiful struggle. Sekou and I, well, I'm gonna speak for myself. He always speaks to people too, but I just want you to know, if I can be of assistance, if you think that I don't have all the answers, but if I can assist and build with you, you could get my email, you can get in touch with me, because this is how we do it. We build, and we have mentors and mentees and relationships and mothers and fathers and uncles and aunties. So I'm just inspired by the work that y'all are doing with the Maroon Liberation Party, and I'm honored to be here. And you do our political prisoners proud, you do our ancestors proud, and you do all those people who struggle. Their lives and sacrifice was not in vain, because as long as we are here tonight and we continue, their work was not in vain. So I just say thank you to all of you. You lit that chat up. I had to go get my notebook because I can't figure out how to get to those things that's on the chat. So I saw, thank you, Laura, for putting Noah's poem in there. I mean, it was just wonderful. So even though we didn't get a chance to talk to everyone, I saw people writing in the chat, and it was just, I'm honored. Thank you so much. This was a beautiful evening. This was beautiful.
Thank you, Sister Dequi. If we want to come off and make some noise for Sister Dequi, Brother Sekou, Brother Matt. Yes.
Thank you.
Big noise.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yes.
All power to the people.
That's right. And while we're
All
here,
power to the people.
all power to the people. Free them all. Gorgeous.
Free them all.
Free them all.
Spirit, you have any last words for our Maroons? I know we're going into assessments and we always invite everybody, but it is 6:58, my loves.
No. Sister Dequi had the last words. We could. that's it. She said it all.
Hey, Sekou, you heard that, right? You heard that, babe? You on mute, so that means you heard it.
Yes, I heard it. I heard your spirit.
I love it. Thank you for making it a party. This is Maroon Party for Liberation, and we know it's hard work. We are trying to have a good time. And when you bring in humor and love the way that the three of you really do bring in that humor and that love, it feels like a party for liberation for real. So
oh, wait a second.
Thank you.
I just realized this is not gonna. Thank you, but I'm looking at the faces, and there's Valerie Haynes, and we didn't shout her name out, and she's reminding me we did not even say the words Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition in all the organizations that we said. So we can't. I'd have to do a criticism if I got that in after 7 o'clock, but since I got it in before 7 o'clock, we don't have to do this criticism.
Well, the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition is an organization that works in support of our political prisoners and prisoners of war, one that I've been involved with from its inception, and that people are invited to find out more about us, to join us, to work with us, or let us know what work you're doing around political prisoners, that we can work with you. You know, we are. It is an organization here in New York. We invite people to get to know a little more about us. I don't have at my hand the website. Maybe Matt has it, because he is a member himself of the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition. So is Laura Whitehorn. I'm calling them all out to help me. You see me struggling here to find these names, to find the website.
Website. I put the Twitter. Val, isn't it at NEPC?
Oh, see, people, see, that's why we need
Val
you.
has it.
I put it in the chat right now. Thanks, Sekou and Matt.
Got Laura on the Twitter, Stephanie on the Facebook. Yes.
I'm out.
Yes. All right. We may not have it all together, but together we have it all.
That's
Nice.
right. That's
Incredible.
right.
Yes. All right, y'all. So if you're signing off right now, I hope you're going to write that letter to Maroon, and we will get the link to you. It's been in the chat, the Maroon
Can I
link.
just make a shout out to one other person, Cleo?
Of course.
Hey, Cleo, how are you?
Where did she go?
I just seen her name and love you, Cleo.
Yeah,
Love
she was
you,
with
Cleo.
us last week. She came in last week. We got to hear from her.
Ah, cool.
Right.
From Memphis.
Memphis. We wish we was out there again. We spent a really nice time out there with Cleo a little while back.
Absolutely, and yep, and Ron, we had a wonderful time.
Yes, we did.
Well, I'm gonna stay because I have some technical issues because I'm challenged when it comes to technology. So I have some technical questions I want to ask. So I'm gonna stay. If that's okay. That's okay, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wait, you're staying to ask technical questions?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm fascinated.
I think Stephanie has
Cliffhanger.
as our Zoom expert unofficially, but maybe Stephanie could give you some of those answers if you need some tech support.
Well,
That first.
Okay.
I'm going to stay to hear Dequi's questions.
Later for you, Matt. Okay, so okay.
I'm going to leave, and it's been wonderful with everybody, seeing everybody. I really enjoyed being on here. Thank you for everything. We love you. I love you. All power to the people. Free them all.
Thank you, man. Love you, love you.
All power to the people.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rosa and Spirit Child.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valerie Haynes.
Okay, so my question, right? When you go to the chat, it has those 3 dots and it asks you to save it, right? If you want to save it. I press that, but like, where is it saving it to? And how could I get access? Like, I wrote some of the stuff down, but if I wanted to go back to, because there was a whole bunch of links and stuff that people put in there, how would I get that after I close this window?
So when you click that save file, what happens for me is there's a little green thing that pops up that says, and there's a link that says show in folder. Maybe that will, it depends on your device. Maybe that will happen for you, where you can click that show in folder and it'll show you where the chat is saved on your computer. But
oh, okay. So I hit the three dots and it said save file. So I did that. The one next to it says file, and then I click that one. Something says Dropbox. No, that's not it.
No, that's something different. So if you click the save chat,
okay,
it should pop up a little green thing that says show in folder. Does that happen for you?
No, when I hit save, it just said it just gives me back the window, the chat window.
Mm-hmm. And are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay. So what you would want to do is maybe look on your desktop and see if it saved it to your desktop. It would be probably in a folder that says Zoom and maybe has the date, and then you can open that up and you'll see the chat.
Yeah,
I have a related follow-up question.
Yeah, you can do the you could just go on your spotlight. There's a little spot on the top for searching, and just put Zoom chat, and it'll probably just show you a whole folder with all the chats that you probably were saving before.
I'm sorry, can I ask a related follow-up question, then I may have to go. Can one of y'all who knows how to do this save the chat and then just email it to us?
Well, I just send it to Dequi. We're gonna send you a better version, because the one that you save here looks crazy, but when you get the recorded version, send that to y'all. It's more with the links and everything. So we'll definitely get that to y'all.
Wow.
We would like to thank you as the representatives of the youth.
For real,
Rosa and
definitely. You did it. I found it.
You found it.
I found a whole bunch of other ones.
That's
that
what I'm saying. You're gonna find
Hey.
right now.
My beloved, I gotta go. I love you all.
Bye, Matt. It was so good seeing you. Goodbye.
Yeah,
So,
it's great
thank
being
you
here.
for my Zoom 101. I tell you.
Anytime.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Say hi to the family.
Yes. All got skills that we bring, and we all got skills we can pass on, and areas where we need to be strengthened. I know there's a lot of things I can do, but there's also a lot of things that I'm like weak in. And technology, my daughter always tells me, "Mommy, you gotta have patience." But I just want to do. And I don't even want to read manuals. Sekou is always getting on me. He's like, "Did you read the instructions?" No.
Oh my goodness. That sounds familiar, right?
I live with one. My screen's right that way.
Right? Okay. All right. So now I know, and I can use that in other instances when I want to save it, and when I want to find it, then I can find it.
Yep.
Stephanie, you're the bomb, diggity.
Reincorporation. You're a natural comic.
Right.
Dequi, before we lose you, what can we do better?
I thought it was the great. I guess the only thing, because I like looking at people, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. like, I like how you turn, you know, you have everybody on mute so that we don't get the house noises and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you find that it's distracting for people to have their cameras on, like if we're talking and we see everybody else. I don't know if you feel like that's distracting, but I thought that it was like smooth. The only thing I'm glad that you was able to get back to the John Brown, because I was really into it when it cut off. I was like, damn. But I like how you did like the multimedia aspect of it, because it's like bringing people together and breaking up the monotony of us just looking at this screen or people's names. But you had the music and you had the video, and even in the video there was humor and there was lightness, even though he was passing on history. So I thought it was great. Like I said, my only thing is I like to see people that I'm talking to. So, but and what I also liked is like, this was different than any book talk that we've gone to, because we've been up at Syracuse, we've been at Cortland, we've been at Oswego, we've been in different places, and it always kind of opened up where us talking and presenting and then potentially taking questions afterwards. I like this part. Like what you did was completely different. It was just open to asking questions. So we were really a part of the community and talking and sharing. So I really like that.
Oh, good. That's good. I know that Matt was trying to get the I like the moment when Matt was trying to be like, we've done this before, and then Sekou was like, no. I like that moment.
Right. So that's an example of his white man shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He brought it up. Micromanaging, Snick, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I think they still have that live and in person.
Right. So, but I was pleased with it. It was a good time. So you're not just doing it just for Black August and today was an extension. This is every Monday.
Well, yes, it looks different every time. We only had special guests for Black August. So for example, next week we're going to do guest assessments for school, and going back to like our regular school schedule where everybody goes into cohorts or committees and they work on specific projects. So we'll have like political education for about an hour, but there's a lot of people here who work in culture or just education, and then we kind of coalesce together. But this was a special program. It's the first time we've ever done it. And even school, the first time we ever done the school. These are pioneer school members that you see here who are going to graduate with us on September 21st.
Yay!
Hopefully move into the next season.
Congratulations.
The Maroons for this party that we're doing. So yeah, it's all a social engineering experiment that we love everybody who's a part of it. Our elders have taught us to just keep trying to do different things and keep liberation and revolution in the forefront. So we're glad that people are riding with us and working it out, all the little kinks and stuff, because it's all new. It's all new.
I am too. That's wonderful. Well, keep me in the loop. Keep me posted. I'd love to come to some of your sessions.
Yes.
I think that, no matter how much we know, there's always more to learn. Mm-hmm. So, we all need political education.
Right. And we have now we have a better job of like some of the assessments for like, well, what's the curriculum or syllabus, which I kind of like freak out about agendas, but we have a makeshift of like where we're going, what themes. So we'll send them to all of our previous participants, special guests and elders and all that, and see if y'all want to just plug in, all the tenets, especially around Fred, SSS, like art equivalents of politics, indigeneity, revolutionary matriarchy, all those things we're going to break up and get into. So that's our course.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you all so much for the work that you're doing and for your participation, your listening ear, your open heart and mind. I'm eternally grateful for your contributions to our liberation struggle. So y'all have a great night, and I'll see you in the whirlwind.
See you in the
whirlwind. Thank you so much. All right. Have a good night. Peace and many blessings to you.
Blessings. Love you. Love you back. Love you back.
Oh, you can do hearts.
Oh, you can.
I forgot. What else, folks? What else?
That's what I said. Well, sorry, madam. I said that.
You said that.
Where's Amara at? Amara, how you doing?
Hi, I'm feeding the baby at this moment, so my video's not on, but I'm here.
Were you crying again?
No.
No, that's
crying
good.
today. Today was a non-cry. We started September right. No tears.
That's good. That's what's up.
I don't know. I think I like it better when you cry. It's not that I like when you cry. It's just I love how personal those sessions were. Yeah. Yep. All right. Anybody else? That was our last special guest of the series. The next week is going to be straight assessments. So on the whole school. So if anyone wants to say what they appreciated about today or the last time, or how you think it can go better next time we do a guest run series, let us know, please.
I want to say thank you to Natalie for, this is like not the first time you've been posing some pushback questions on there and making people verify their resource list. I think that's really cool. I'm glad you're here for that and doing that, and you have a nice wealth of rounded information. So I hope you're going to be rolling with us, because you can check some of the coalitions that we're going to be coalescing with.
What you mean you hope?
I'm just saying, you know, so I want you to drop by. I hope you're still with us, you know, so, you know.
I'm about to drop some by for my health. Take a drive by.
Good.
I'm here, brother.
All right, good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think everything's good. It's all been inspiring. All the guests have been fantastic. I like how you streamlined it, you know. I mean, with the blocking out the images and bringing us in, you know, at the right times, and just all of it's good, you know, asking the right questions, you're asking questions well. I think that, you know, you solved a lot of the email problems. I don't have pages and pages of emails and responses. I don't know how you pulled that off, but I feel streamlined, not as overwhelmed. So I'm ready for part 2.
Good.
So there is, I don't know if Stephanie, you want to plug what's happening on the 21st and talk about that? We probably should have had some space earlier too to talk about that. I mean, that's my only assessment for today.
That was going to be my critique too, is that, and we preempted it too. I was like, if I forget, please interrupt me and announce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like there was a moment that felt like the moment to be like, so by the way, like, I don't know, I just didn't feel like the entry point. So and we have another week still until the big shebang. But I will say now in FIST, FIST is co-orchestrating this with me. So the 21st is our Soul Session Communiversity celebration, the making of a revolutionary, ideological and ontological stories of trans/formation. And it is it's a celebration. It's a creative integration process for each of us to work with presenting what this has been for us, what has been our personal story of becoming a maroon, becoming a revolutionary, what things, what things or thing do you want to highlight in that? What speaker really spoke to you? What teaching really lit something up in you? And to create something around that as a way to sort of honor it as a portal to the next place, right? As we end the season and begin the next one. And I actually have an update on that from the South Sphere. We met last night, and the South Sphere is fully down to support anyone who wants support in their presentation, in their project. We have a couple people who are theater folks who have like mad skills and are happy to support people who maybe are feeling a little like about presenting, about speaking, about if you want to present something live. that we have people in the South Sphere who are ready to hold it down for you and support you and really help you come forward with that your truth, the story of your making of yourself as a revolutionary in a powerful way. So they'll help you get over your whatever creative inhibitions you have or anything that's in your way. We have people to help you work through that. And another offering that the South Sphere made is that the presentation that we did of the first, I think it was one of the first assignments since I've been in the school, was each sphere created a presentation, and we presented the spiral timeline of Fred Ho's The Whiteness is Not Inevitable piece, and we created a musical score, visual musical score with that. And so one of the things that the South Sphere was really excited about is actually recreating that and incorporating more people, so that we could have it be a collective piece. So people who are wanting to like get in on something and not and collaborate, right, and make a collective piece. There are people, the South Sphere is pretty fired up about recreating a piece around that, and it can look different ways. They're very open to collaborating and making it either using that spiral timeline musical score as we have it, or recreating even pieces of that to make it more oriented to individuals' journey in this process of the Maroon Liberation School. So lots of opportunity for collaboration. If you're all fired up and you have your thing that you're excited about, awesome, keep burning. If you are a little like, oh, I don't know, I feel like you have a little worry or concern or anxiety or whatever is coming up for you, and you feel like you want some support, the South Sphere has got you. And also Fist and I are here. We're happy to talk with you about what you have in mind and support you in any way we can.
What?
Yeah, Fist, you want to say some stuff? Anything about it?
Yes, I would like to thank you for covering almost everything. And for me, the request to do a presentation on the Taino Arawakan people is timely, and it's also very close to my heart. I just spent the last week on the Hill. That means to say a Taino chief put me and a group of brothers and sisters out to sit in nature for 4 days and nights with no food, no water. And that's a very special experience also because it's an ancient tradition that came to the Taino people from the Lakota people, who were strong revolutionaries and warriors for many centuries. But what I've been doing in my study on pedagogy and looking at the same questions that she discussed was from the perspective of the first Maroons, from the perspective of the first revolutionaries, from the perspective of the first people who actually initially offered a hand for brotherhood and peace as potential new trading partners, as the Arawakan Confederacy had already established trade with nations across the Americas long before anybody from Europe came. But then relatively quickly, having to face the challenge of fighting for their survival. And then until recently, thanks to the work of indigenous and African brothers and sisters, in the last 50 years, many of the complicated questions surrounding the indigenous of the Americas, and in particular, this lost voice of humanity, the Taino people, is now finding its way back. And so, it's sometimes challenging for me when I listen to people talk about these questions about racism and slavery, and when I listen to people talk about what they do or don't know about, and what in some ways their own ancestors, it hurts my heart when I hear people say things that fundamentally is incorrect, from a materialist perspective, You know, like when people say slavery began in 1619, I believe that's the year that many people quote, but it's actually much earlier. And that the Taino people went extinct. But there's material evidence and there's also new theoretical evidence I'd like to present that exposes a different narrative that's more correct about what happened and how we've survived through the generations with indigenous maroon camps that had popped up across the Caribbean, including Jamaica. As a final note, I just make this connection is that a big part of my work recently has been surfacing these truths and dispelling myths about the ancient and ongoing solidarity and relationship, not only between African brothers and sisters, but also indigenous brothers and sisters. And my personal journey of realizing that for the first time, I am Taino. And over the last few years, thanks to these brothers and sisters, including Shep. Everybody here heard of Shep? Anybody not know who Shep is? Well, when I first arrived to New York, I lived with Shep. I lived with Shep and Tariq. And that was the brother who several years ago put the spark to the smoldering, flames of an idea, which was, you Indian, you should really look into that. You say you Indian, right? So thanks to Shep and other people, today I am now an enrolled member of an actual Taino tribe that is recognized by various nations across the Caribbean and Central and South America. But as you should know, for those that, didn't know, it's not federally recognized in the United States. So these are just a little tiptoeing around some of the points I want to bring up and in a way personalize it for you. And for those of you that share in that heritage, to invite you to become part of it. There's a beautiful part of your own personal history. It's in your DNA. The medicines and the ceremonies are empowering, to say the least. And it's helped me to survive a very intense struggle here in the city over the last year. So I only share that with you all because you're my brothers and sisters. And I want to make sure that I present something powerful and moving, on point. And so with that, I've invited some of the top leaders of the Taino Nation, top indigenous leaders in the country to come and participate. I don't know who could make it. I've asked them to all be ready to present in 2 minutes. But if I could get 2 or 3 of the chiefs, some really good people to back up what I'm saying and sit and share that space with us, I think that would be beautiful. And as we say, I hope.
Thank you, Fist. And there's lots of folks giving love in the chat here as well for surfacing the truths and connecting it personally, because that's what really is moving as well. Thank you. So
if I could just make one more quick comment to everybody. You look at me, you may not know the Y chromosome in my entire body is the Y chromosome that came to me when my first Rivera ancestor was an African slave. And my mitochondrial DNA, that thing that comes to me through my matriarchy, is already now proven as Taino. So I identify as Afro-Taino, but that gives me a gift because half the time people looking at me will not think that I will identify in such a strong way with the African struggle. So I just want to point that quick point out to you all, because you can't always look at somebody's skin color and determine who they are, what they're made of. And that's why the call to free them all includes ending colorism and racism in our framework for how we do ideological and programmatic development. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Stephanie, I put a question there. If I would, oh, yes. They will support me. They won't be my actors. I can't sing and I can't act.
Thing, if you, not every offering has to be live. So it's possible for you to, if you have a poem or a song or something like that, that's also something that could be incorporated into the spiral collaborative presentation, if that's something you wanted, or we can find a way. We're the cultural spirit. We're creative. We're willing to creatively problem solve to make everybody feel like, yes, this is gonna be the shit. And we hope too, like I said in the chat, to like, we're not just gonna do it for you. Like this is a moment for people to step into a new place, and an offering to the community is a way to step forward and be seen in where you're at and what you've come through and what you've learned, and also share from your process. And I think that, you know, I feel like Fisk will agree with me with this, is that this is a really important part of a process, to not just go through and be like, okay, I got all my things, but like, how do you use your own voice and your own experience to share and light up the revolutionary flame in others?
I like that. Light up the flame. I'm just gonna bring some fireworks.
I think he's been spending too much time with MCs. I think it's starting to rub off.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Could we...
Anyone else, things you love, things you like, any questions? We have a party happening at our house that we didn't know was going to happen, but it's here, so.
I have some questions about the letters to Maroon. So I'm writing my letters, and you know, I know that they read everything, and I know he's, you know, been in a lot of trouble, as you know, that's what prison is. So I'm trying to be careful about my language. So are there any, is it like language I could stay away from? I'm trying to figure out how to introduce myself without being like, hey, I'm a revolutionary that's, you know, taking your words and running with it, and I was trained by you, and I'm out here doing the work. You know what I mean? Like, you know?
I don't, if I could just give a few tips. They love it when it comes from the heart. They love intellectual letters, but they love to just read, you know, that you know a little bit about them, that you've taken some time to do some background. Maybe you've read a few things they've written. If the leadership cipher wants some more things, I'm sure they got a lot already. But that's really it, just heartfelt, you know, and avoid any kind of code talk.
Right.
So in that piece on the Google form, you'll see a nice interview. There's a few from Maroon. There's one from his son. There's one from him directly. He's speaking, and there's also one that's transcribed that he has an interview that you get more background. We actually shared it in our school, so you know, I mean, just think of it as a birthday letter, right? Like start off easy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you know, you can, if you want to get into a little bit more detail, you can say things like, you know, I read Maroon the Implacable, or something from Maroon the Implacable, or we are learning some stuff from Fred Ho, right? We're coming from that school. I mean, that will say a lot to him, and that'll ease up all the talk that you need to say. You don't have to say nothing else. You just say, you know.
And I also recommend that after this, anybody who writes him, it would be good to consider, if it's in your heart, to stay in communication with him, you know? Get to know him. Let him also be a mentor. They love that. They love to teach and they love to share. So don't just write one letter and you did your good deed for the year, you know? If you feel moved to, I'm encouraging you to keep writing.
No doubt, no doubt. Thank you. That's great. That's great info from the both of you. I appreciate it.
What up, Rosa?
What up? That's my wait time. I'm trying to practice.
Right. Okay. You're practicing the wait time. Okay. Right. Funny.
Stephanie and I are going to do coordinated dancing on the 21st to show how White Maroons internally deal with wait time.
That can work.
Choreography on Zoom is actually pretty fun because there's so much dimensionality you can work with.
I like it. I like it.
I to speak for the other White Maroon over there, but you know, her time zone's pretty out there. I can see her face. I want to talk.
Still vibe. I can still vibe. What up?
Oh, you can still vibe? Okay, because I saw that face like, what the hell are we doing?
I know. It's all cool. It's all cool.
Some people don't know how to leave on their own, you know? She's responsible for herself.
It is 1:30 over here, but I actually wanted to just check in with the people if there's anything else, because I know these party people have to go to that other party. So if we do have other things to share, let's go for it, or let's.
How about you? You've been quiet.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking with Dequi's comment that we can maybe ask the people who are going to speak if they would like us to have our cameras on or not. I definitely do hear the reason why we did it, not to have a whole white public. So I think that's just a creative idea, but I'm good with either way.
That can also easily be done where, I think for the video, the host of the overall Zoom has control as what is being seen. So even throughout, if they want everybody shown, we can just glimpse at the gallery and mostly get the speaker view. But everyone has to be on mute though. That's the other, because otherwise we'll start seeing people in the kitchen and stuff.
Natalie's saying you can pin the video.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it'll freeze it. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, because I'm too ADD for everybody. Because as soon as someone's like moving around, that's where my eyes go, and then, yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I think it's good to check in with the speakers, because it can feel very isolating. Like, who am I talking to? I'm talking to like one person.
Mm-hmm.
And to see like, oh, there's 30 people on this call, but where are they? What are they doing? Are they even listening to me? I can that. Yeah, so I think it's a great idea, Doreen. Ask, give speakers the option.
Yeah, and so did we decide 14th and 21st is open? You make that decision?
14th is open. I think we were gonna wait for Stephanie and Fist to.
Okay, right. Y'all got to build on that. Okay.
And I do want to say, since we're closing these guest sessions off, just thank you for organizing, and especially to Rosa and Spirit, because that has been possible through years and years of organizing. I keep saying it because we have to remember it, and it's so incredible. So thank you all.
Oh, good question.
Thank you. Couldn't do it without you, Doreen.
What time? Yes, all of us. I mean, that's why there's 7 school leaders, But Jade had a good question. M1 is probably going to be doing some funky things with M7. So hold on to your seats, because y'all might have some Black and brown and indigenous maroons from the South Bronx and Baltimore sweeping into the international group.
I don't live in the South Bronx. Let's get this right.
Okay, that's my dream. That's me. I'm from the South Bronx. Maisha's from, Burnside, but it's still saying, it's still kind of south, depending on where you at. Midway.
Yes, Jay, we're gonna merge our groups together and come up with a new thing.
But the next 2 weeks are going to be the same at 5 o'clock, and it's all the schools doing assessments next week.
Yeah.
All the schools participating in the Soul Sessions Communiversity on the 21st.
Yes, and there'll be wine and everything else provided somehow.
From the week of the 12th of October, we'll merge probably over the weekend.
Cool.
Yes, EDT. In September, we're keeping this 5 p.m. October, check your emails. Check your Cal invites. Yes. I don't know if Rooker and Fist want to ask this small group how they feel about inviting people while you have a small group of attentive folks. So the question that was thrown back to our host for the 21st is, do we want to have outsiders come? Or is it just for the people that have been riding with us since June?
Yeah, that would be good. Just to Fitz and I have to talk about it ourselves, so we can talk offline. But it'd be good to hear from who's here, just to take the temperature of who's here, how people feel about that.
I saw that, Doreen.
I say open it up.
Ooh, if Maisha said open it up.
Open it up.
That's a big open it up.
That's what that was my thing. I was like, open it up, keep it, you know, just keep it to the school performing and all that, but just open it up and let everybody just, you know.
I also wouldn't mind to open it up.
How about from the leadership? I think I have an idea of what y'all think from our meeting. So from the other Maroons here, where you all stand on this?
It's good to open it up. I'm hesitant because I don't like letting nobody into my circle, but you know, I could work on that.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, Fist and I will talk more about it too, and see what we come to on it, and we'll let you know soon. Cool.
Sweet. I think it's good.
Well, I'm curious how Natalie, how would you feel if, since being a person who's going to be enrolled, right? You were working with a school for 4 months or so exclusively, you know, and then we had this kind of open vibe like how we had. Would you feel comfortable having someone from the outside engage in like an audience kind of way of while you're sharing what you've learned in a like 5-minute or so presentation? Soulfully?
Like, you gotta put me on blast though. I'm kidding. I'm just like settling in here, so I'm enjoying like the very like intense but beautiful energy. But for me, like I can only speak to my own work. I always try to invite people in so they can experience and get into the fold, and that's the only way I've ever felt that I'm doing my work justice, by bringing other people in instead of engaging in what can look like gatekeeping to other people. Not saying that happens in the space, but that's just my own personal politics. So I'm always for inviting other people in. But I will kick somebody out though.
That's important. Yes, you need that. You definitely need that. Word. Thanks for that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting us put you on blast. The rest of us have been riding since June, except for Sally, but
I'm all good. It's okay.
Maybe Sally forgot she had us on here. Hello, Sally. All right, I'm going down the block and be like, Sally, you there? If that's it, I think that's it. That's it. We love you all. Thanks for riding all the way to 740 since 4:30. Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Much love. You did a
Much
great
love.
job as always.
Love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for riding with us.
Hey, have a good party or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Clean up.
Let's
clean up.
Clean up, yeah.
Oh, fun.
At this point.
I'll be there with you in spirit, cleaning.
Thank you.
Much love to you, Maisha, and your whole block and your baby.
Listen.
Right, I'm out, y'all. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
Wells goes, are you okay? Did you get in trouble? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're so quiet today. Normally while people are talking, I'm like responding out loud, but I was just like absorbing. There was so much to absorb. So I'm like oddly quiet. He's like, are you in trouble?
Are you in trouble?
What's wrong with you? Okay, bye. Bye, Sally. Bye. Good night, guys.
Later. Bye-bye.
Love you.
Love you. Ciao.